There is a silent yet fierce battle that each of us faces every single day. It's not a clash with others, nor a struggle for status or victory in the external world. It is the battle within, more precisely, against the weaker, uncertain, and complacent version of ourselves. It wears the mask of procrastination, of excuses, of the lure of comfort over growth. Every morning we wake, there are two versions of us that rise. One ready to step forward, to face the day and act, and another that hesitates, fears, and seeks escape from responsibility. The crucial question is, who do we let take the reins? Do we live as victims of circumstance, or do we rise and claim authorship of our fate? This video does not offer a pleasant tale, but if you have the courage to confront the truth within, you'll discover this. The greatest strength does not come from the outside. It lies in your capacity for self-discipline and the will to rise above yourself. 1. Break every excuse. Nothing corrodes inner strength faster than excuses. They often come dressed in soft, reasonable forms. I'll start tomorrow. I need more time to prepare. I'm not good enough. Or I'm not ready yet. Though they sound justifiable, each accepted excuse pulls us one step further from our potential. Excuses don't just delay action, they undermine self-respect at the deepest level by eroding the ability to keep promises to oneself. In Stoic philosophy, action is foundational. Marcus Aurelius emphasized that human strength lies in mastering the mind, not in controlling external circumstances. When one allows themselves an excuse not to act, they surrender control of their inner life to circumstance, emotion, and inertia. From a Stoic lens, no reason is ever strong enough to justify abandoning one's duty. Excuses are a cunning instrument of delay. They swap truth for momentary comfort. Instead of confronting hardship and pushing through, we choose the easier route. Procrastinate, rationalize, and convince ourselves that tomorrow is a better time. But that tomorrow rarely comes. When procrastination becomes routine, it evolves into a pattern of character, a reflex that teaches us to flee instead of face. At its core, an excuse is the instinctive response of our weaker self, the part that craves ease and avoids disruption. It doesn't spring from reason, but from survival instinct, seeking safety and preserving the status quo. Yet all genuine growth demands discomfort. No one evolves in perfect conditions. It's the struggle that forces us to change, adapt, and rise. Thus, abandoning excuses isn't rigidity. It's the first step in rebuilding willpower. When someone refuses to make excuses, they don't just act, they reshape their identity. Saying, "I'll do it now instead of later," is a silent declaration of maturity, discipline, and personal responsibility. Each such act strengthens self-trust and little by little forges someone reliable, first in their own eyes. It's worth noting that excuses are often accompanied by self-persuasion. We don't just delay, we build ideologies to justify our delay. I don't need to try, others are worse. I'm fine as is, no need to change. Such thoughts create a false safe zone, a comfort trap disguised as a meaningful life. Here, excuses aren't just acts, they become a way of living. Breaking them requires honest confrontation. No real change begins with denial. Stoic thought underscores the power of self-examination, watching oneself without mercy. Only when we dare to face the lies we tell ourselves can true transformation begin. The action need not be grand, but it must be decisive. The moment the thought later arises, act immediately. In doing so, we train ourselves to overcome the reflex to stall. Understand this: excuses never vanish completely. They return whenever we're tired, disappointed, or uncertain. But each time we defeat them, even in the smallest deed, is a major step forward. And when action becomes habit, excuses lose their power. They no longer block the path. They signal, "Here lies a chance to grow." To overcome excuses is not about ability. It's about choice. No one forces you to delay. No one commands you to rationalize. It is a personal decision. And if you can choose to stall, you can choose to act. In a world of emotion, pressure, and distraction, those who reject excuses build a kind of mental immunity, a daily resistance to mediocrity. A person can live an entire life surrounded by reasonable justifications, yet never touch their true potential. That is the real tragedy. Not being defeated by external enemies, but by the whispers of one's own mind. Excuses make you settle for less than you're worth. They make you compromise with limits instead of stretching beyond them. Ultimately, breaking excuses is not a single act. It's a way of life. It's a daily choice not to hide, to do rather than wait, to confront rather than withdraw. That choice, repeated over time, shapes a different kind of person. Not one bound by fragile habits, but one who builds their future through disciplines and deliberate action. 2. Discipline is the pillar, not inspiration. On the path of self-development, many begin with excitement, a spark ignited by a quote, a motivational video, or a brief moment of success. But inspiration is fleeting. It comes and goes with emotion and circumstance. Discipline, on the other hand, is the enduring pillar, the foundation upon which all lasting achievement rests. Inspiration gets people started. Only discipline keeps them going. When the applause fades, when energy drains, when the mind grows weary, discipline is what keeps one anchored to their chosen path. It doesn't need fanfare nor invitation, for its essence is to act regardless of mood or conditions. Stoicism teaches that good things don't stem from fleeting feelings, but from the repeated practice of right action. Discipline is the embodiment of self-mastery, a tangible proof that one commands their actions, not the other way around. Every repeated act, grounded in principle, lays another brick in the structure of character, gradually defining who we become. Discipline isn't about feeling ready. It's about acting even when we don't want to. The Stoics believe that true freedom isn't doing whatever you want. It's having the strength to do what's necessary. The divide between the exceptional and the average isn't talent. It's how deeply discipline is woven into each small action. Inspiration might get you to start your morning resolved, but only discipline pulls you out of bed when it's cold, when your spirit is low, when every excuse feels valid. Without discipline, even the grandest plans are fantasy. For all plans, no matter how perfect, require consistent action, and that cannot depend on passing moods. One core principle of discipline is building systems, not waiting for inspiration. Systems mean habits, routines, non-negotiable rules, things you do not because you feel like it, but because they must be done. This doesn't mean discipline kills flexibility. Quite the opposite. It frees energy from trivial decisions and focuses it on what truly matters. Stoics didn't trust ideal conditions. They knew life is unstable, and if action only comes when the wind is fair, growth will always be erratic. That's why discipline is a weapon against chaos, a way to move forward despite the storm. Discipline is practiced without show. It lives in quiet moments, choosing training over comfort, journaling to guard the mind, sticking to a routine with no one watching. Discipline needs no audience. It's a private contract. I will not betray myself. Inspiration can bring fleeting wins. Only discipline brings lasting transformation. It fuels progress when results are absent, when no one notices, when the world turns away. The disciplined persist in keeping promises to themselves, and that is a strength no one can lend or imitate. Worth noting, discipline isn't strain. It's deliberate choice, made again and again. No one is born disciplined. It's forged daily, in holding to principle in the smallest things. Each time we follow through, regardless of desire, we affirm who we are. And when that identity is solid, we don't depend on inspiration. We become people of action. The undisciplined live in cycles of disappointment, strong starts, swift collapses. They wonder why others go farther, though they once shared the same ambition. The answer is clear. Desire isn't what separates people. Discipline is the dividing line between the beginner and the finisher. In today's world, where distractions and temptations are everywhere, discipline isn't optional, it's essential. Without it, we're shaped by the external. With it, we shape our own terms. We stop being dragged by life and start steering it. In sum, if inspiration is a flash that ignites movement, discipline is the silent current that keeps it alive. Inspiration comes and goes. Discipline remains. And it is what remains that forges real change. 3. Turn adversity into a training ground. In life, adversity is unavoidable. No matter how much we try to control it, there will always be forces beyond our reach. Illness, loss, failure, betrayal, pain. While many see adversity as unfair, as an obstacle to be removed quickly, Stoic philosophy regards it as a necessary and beneficial part of self-cultivation. Not something to escape, but something to transform. According to Stoic thought, adversity isn't an obstruction, it's an opportunity, a test of character, a proving ground for will and courage. Epictetus taught that hardship doesn't ruin people, it reveals who they truly are. When comfort is stripped away, our real qualities emerge. In adversity, the false are exposed, and the resilient are forged. Hardship, seen through the Stoic lens, is a purifying process, where what is excess and artificial is burned away, revealing what is essential. When everything goes well, it's hard to see our true limits, but chaos forces us to call on every inner resource to remain upright. And it is in those moments that hidden strength is summoned and refined. Adversity, when rightly viewed, acts like a stern but devoted teacher. It doesn't teach by theory, but by experience. No book can impart lessons on patience, endurance, or resilience as honestly and powerfully as harsh reality itself. Those willing to learn from adversity develop a strength that ease and comfort can never provide. Inner power. In Stoic philosophy, what matters isn't what happens, but how we respond to it. One event might be a tragedy to one person and a turning point for another. The difference lies not in circumstance, but in attitude. And adversity is the clearest mirror of that attitude. Stoics don't seek to eliminate adversity. They learn to use it. They don't pray for things to go their way. They train themselves to accept things as they are. In a world full of uncertainty, they understand that adaptability is not just a survival skill, it is wisdom. Accepting adversity as part of the path shifts us from passive victimhood to active agency. We stop reacting to life and begin shaping our response. The process of turning adversity into a training ground begins with shifting perspective. When a challenge appears, instead of asking, "Why me?" the Stoic asks, "What strength is this calling me to train?" Every negative event, big or small, can be turned into an exercise. Calmness under criticism, patience in waiting, courage in facing the unknown. This requires a high degree of self-awareness. Those who lack it fall into instinctual reactions, anger, blame, despair. But the reflective mind pauses, examines the emotion, identifies the trial, and begins the transformation. From that moment, adversity is no longer a barrier. It becomes raw material for mental evolution. A unique feature of Stoic thought is that there is no limit to the scale of adversity that can be used for growth. From missing a bus to losing a job, from a harsh word to profound grief, everything can be a whetstone for resilience. The size doesn't matter. What matters is whether we choose to use it for growth. While many use adversity as an excuse to surrender, Stoic thinking sees it as a rare chance to prove personal worth, not to others, but to oneself. When we pass through difficulty without losing composure, character, or purpose, we not only win the moment, we lay the groundwork for overcoming even greater trials ahead. Each time we face and surpass adversity, we increase our capacity to endure, a trait held in the highest regard in Stoic philosophy. Endurance isn't resignation. It's the ability to stand firm under pressure without losing direction. A mind trained through hardship no longer fears disruption because it has learned how to remain steady amidst chaos. At its core, adversity doesn't create a new person. It reveals the one already there. If there is a solid foundation inside, the test will make it shine. If there is emptiness, the challenge will collapse everything. This is why Stoicism constantly urges inner preparation, not to wait for trouble to find strength, but to build it in advance, in every small act. In summary, turning adversity into a training ground doesn't mean seeking out hardship. It means deliberately choosing how to receive it. It is a continuous process. Observe, reflect, act, and evolve. In a world that never stops changing, those who use adversity don't just survive. They lead, because they've learned to harness what others run from. 4. Mastering emotion. The foundation of freedom. Emotion is an inseparable part of human life. Yet in Stoic thought, the key isn't whether we feel emotions, but whether we can control and direct them. One who cannot master emotion becomes its slave, letting anger dictate actions, fear drive choices, and desire lead behavior. The one who governs emotion, however, is truly free, unshaken by inner storms, unmoved by impulsive reactions. In Stoicism, emotion is not seen as the enemy, but as a force to be tamed. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This reminds us that suffering doesn't arise from circumstance, but from our reaction to it. Emotion only becomes dangerous when we fail to recognize and regulate it. Emotional mastery begins with the awareness that reactions are choices, not reflexes. Many say they can't help being angry or can't stop worrying, but in truth, they've grown used to being led by emotion instead of training the mind to take the lead. Stoics cultivate the habit of the pause, a brief space between emotion arising and response unfolding. In that space, reason is summoned and choice replaces impulse. True freedom, according to the Stoics, doesn't come from doing whatever we want, but from not being ruled by how we feel. A person may be in harsh conditions, yet remain free if they master their emotions and stay composed. Conversely, one may live in comfort, but be a prisoner of jealousy, rage, or anxiety, and thus enslaved by their own inner world. Stoics often employ concrete methods to regulate emotions, including 3 core principles. 1. Observe emotions with objectivity. Rather than being swept away, they learn to step outside and view emotions as passing mental states, not as the self. Instead of saying, "I am angry," they think, "Anger is arising." This creates distance between the self and the emotion, making it easier to choose the right response. 2. Reflect before acting. Every emotion brings with it a potential action, but the emotionally mature do not act immediately. They pause, weigh consequences, traces the emotion's origin, and only act when reason has taken the helm. This not only prevents error, but builds self-respect, for they refuse to be victims of their impulses. 3. Regularly prepare the mind for worst-case scenarios. The Stoic practice of premeditatio malorum, imagining the worst in advance, helps soften the shock of negative events and strengthens our ability to stay rational in crisis. It's also crucial to note that unchecked negative emotions disrupt more than the mind. They damage relationships, careers, and health. One decision made in anger can ruin a lasting bond. One act during panic can close a vital door. Emotional mastery, then, isn't just a virtue. It's a necessity for stability and quality of life. However, Stoicism does not promote emotional suppression. It doesn't teach indifference. Rather, it shows how to accept emotions as natural while refusing to let them take the wheel. A rational mind is not one that feels nothing, but one that feels enough and acts rightly. Calmness isn't apathy. It's the result of deep self-governance. The journey of emotional mastery is also one of self-knowledge. Honest observation of emotion forces us to confront hidden values, unhealed wounds, and unrealistic expectations. Through this, we mature not just in behavior, but in depth of awareness. Emotion, far from being a threat, becomes a mirror, revealing what truly matters within. One of the highest signs of emotional mastery is staying composed under attack, insult, or hardship. Instead of reacting, the master observes, then responds, if at all, after reflection. That calm is the mark of a mind not easily pulled into the noise of the world. In the modern world, where emotional triggers are constant, from media, social platforms, and workplace stress, the need for emotional mastery is even more urgent. The untrained mind is easily manipulated by opinion, misled by falsehoods, and lost in reaction. The stable mind sees clearly, decides wisely, and maintains peace amidst the storm. In the end, mastering emotion isn't secondary, it is the foundation of all lasting growth. True freedom isn't changing the world, it's changing how we meet the world. Only when we master our emotions do we truly take the reins of life, thought by thought, choice by choice, act by act. 5. True worth needs no recognition. In a world increasingly shaped by social media, where people measure their worth by likes and approval. External validation has become a common form of psychological currency. Yet in Stoic philosophy, external recognition does not define true value. The Stoic does not live for praise, but for fidelity to inner principles, the sole foundation for lasting self-worth. Stoicism does not deny social influence, but asserts that all efforts to live rightly must needs stem from a desire for validation. A person who places their value in the hands of the crowd has surrendered their own sovereignty. When behavior is steered by outside eyes, independence and integrity begin to erode. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Don't let applause drown out your inner voice." Inner worth, according to the Stoics, is forged and sustained through reasoned, principled action. Regardless of who's watching, it's keeping promises no one knows about, doing good without recognition, and being kind without reward. These acts aren't done to impress, but to align belief with behavior. That harmony creates self-respect, unbestowed and unremovable. Stoics value inner steadiness over external judgment. They don't chase at being liked to feel valuable, because they know public affection sways with emotion, bias, and interest. To live for approval is to lose one's compass, morphing with every opinion, a futile pursuit that erodes the self. Rather than ask, "What do others think of me?" the Stoic asks, "Am I living by principle?" They judge themselves by internal standards, not by praise or blame. Thus, whether praised or criticized, they remain composed. Praise does not inflate them. Insult does not diminish them. Others' emotions don't dictate their worth. Character does. Living for recognition breeds compromise. One starts shaping actions to please others and slowly forgets the reason they chose virtue. This creates a gap between true self and the self built to impress, a gap that breeds unrest, confusion, and vulnerability. Stoics are aware of this and remain grounded even when virtue yields no immediate benefit. Upholding inner values does not mean rejecting all feedback. The Stoic listens, reflects, and adjusts, but always by reason, not popularity. They don't live in isolation, but refuse to mirror society's shifting expectations. They live like a mountain, exposed to wind, rain, and light, yet unmoved by them. A person of real worth acts the same whether seen or unseen. They're not better when watched, nor worse when alone. That consistency marks a well-trained character. Stoic teaching urges individuals to set and uphold their own standards, not from fear of judgment, but out of fidelity to reason's call. One positive outcome of living without seeking approval is personal freedom in all situations. One who doesn't need agreement to stand firm, isn't manipulated by praise, swayed by expectation, or pressured to perform. They live with freedom rooted within, a freedom no one can grant or take away. To the Stoic, character is the greatest possession, not for recognition, but because it remains when all else fades. Reputation can be ruined, wealth can vanish, careers can end. But virtue, if well trained, becomes life's most unshakable ground. Hence, they focus on being over having, on becoming good, not merely appearing good. In sum, Stoic philosophy teaches that true worth requires no recognition, for it doesn't reside in praise, but in the alignment between belief and deed. The one who lives by principle isn't perfect, but honest. Honest with themselves in all circumstances. That honesty is the source of self-respect, the foundation of character, and the bedrock of a life of quality. 6. Strength comes from endurance, not escape. In today's world where comfort, speed, and ease are glorified, endurance has become a rare virtue. Yet in Stoic philosophy, endurance isn't just a necessity for surviving hardship. It's the core ingredient of inner strength. The Stoic doesn't flee difficulty. They embrace it as a vital arena for training will and character. Endurance, in its deepest form, is the unwavering commitment to right thought and action, even under unfavorable conditions. It's not passive surrender, but conscious resolve to move forward, despite pain, frustration, or injustice. The one who endures isn't untouched by hurt. They simply don't let hurt change what they know is right. Epictetus taught, "Don't hope events will follow your desires. Hope instead to stay steadfast when they don't." This Stoic truth is clear. Resilience isn't found in avoiding difficulty, but in holding reason and principle amid chaos. From this endurance arises real power, not muscle, but an unbreakable will. One of endurance's paradoxes is this: what seems to wound us often helps us grow. When someone faces pain, physical, emotional, or mental, and doesn't give in, they develop a kind of strength that no easy life can provide. Each time we pass a trial without abandoning our values, we reaffirm control of our inner world and build psychological strength for future storms. Endurance isn't luck or instinct. It's a product of training, starting in daily life's small trials. Choosing not to complain in hardship, persisting without immediate results, staying silent in the face of unfair attack. These are exercises. Repeated, they form resilience, a trait not easily shaken by life's blows. To the Stoic, endurance is the highest expression of freedom. The one who endures does not let circumstance define their dignity. They may suffer loss, insult, or injustice, but they hold fast to calm and autonomy. They are not fate's victim, but their own instructor, using trials to sharpen virtue, discipline, and resolve. A clear sign of endurance is the ability to persist through long periods of difficulty without visible progress. While others quit from fatigue or impatience, the one who's trained in endurance knows that lasting growth is rarely instant. They don't need constant motivation. They hold to principle and trust in the worth of persistence. True strength in the Stoic view is not measured by short-term success, but by the ability to stand firm over time. When someone is tested again and again, yet does not abandon their values, they prove that what they pursue isn't a passing impulse, but a deeply held conviction. That conviction is only proven through suffering well. In today's culture of immediacy, those who endure stand apart. They don't lash out, don't panic, and don't waver under pressure. They may be slow, but they don't stop. They might feel pain, but they don't break. They live like a quiet current, subtle but enduring, and ultimately transformative. Stoic thought does not romanticize pain, but recognizes its role in making us whole. Suffering, rightly faced, is the forge of transformation. It exposes weaknesses to refine, limits to overcome, and illusions to dissolve. The one who endures turns pain into fire, burning away the fragile and forging the strong. Endurance also requires a deep understanding of life's impermanence. Stoics accept that all things, feelings, events, relationships are in flux. They don't cling to comfort, but prepare the mind to receive hardship as inevitable. That acceptance prevents them from being overwhelmed when adversity comes and helps them stay calm without losing direction. Ultimately, endurance is not a destination, it's a path. No one becomes resilient after a single hardship, but each step forward, however small, adds to the store of inner strength. And it is this steady, silent accumulation that builds a person who cannot be easily defeated. 7. In stillness, character is forged. Amid a world overwhelmed by noise, from social media, mass media, to the frantic pace of life, stillness has become both rare and misunderstood. Many mistake stillness for emptiness, isolation, or passivity. Yet in Stoic philosophy, stillness is not the absence of sound, but the full presence of self. It is the mental space where character is shaped, thought is purified, and the mind returns to clarity. In stillness, one is no longer scattered by external expectations or swayed by superficial judgments. It is in that state that we are forced to face our inner world, our thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and limitations. With no one left to blame and nothing to hide behind, silence becomes the most honest mirror of our nature. Stoics advocate the practice of stillness as a discipline of the mind, not to escape reality, but to create distance for reflection. In that silence, one can objectively observe the inner life, uncovering unhealthy reactions, unconscious beliefs, and psychological habits that hinder growth. Stillness does not erase problems, but it allows us to meet them with calm, reason, and clarity. Stillness is also the ideal environment for cultivating reflection, a vital Stoic skill. Reflection is not a reaction to crisis, but a daily habit for those who seek to live deliberately. In silence, one can ask, what values am I living by? Do my actions reflect my principles? Am I led by reason or by the noise of emotion and opinion? Such questions don't arise in chaos. They emerge only when one is quiet enough to hear the inner voice. Stillness is not just a space for deep thought. It is a crucible for inner strength. When one learns to be alone without feeling empty, they reach a form of spiritual independence, free from distraction, untouched by the need for external approval. The ability to be alone and not feel lonely is a mark of a mind in command. Such a person does not chase noise to fill a void, but uses stillness to fortify resolve, refine behavior, and reconnect with purpose. Stoicism doesn't promote isolation, but it insists that inner preparation can only happen in silence. Just as a warrior must train off the battlefield, we must train the mind during quiet hours, so when storms arrive, our strength is ready. Stoic stillness is not a break for the body, it is a reset for the rational mind. In it, we not only recover, but reorganize thought and energy. A key aspect of stillness is mastery over speech. One who cannot control their words often falls into argument, impulsive reactions, and chaotic communication. Stillness trains restraint, teaching when to speak and when to remain silent. The ability to stay silent when provoked is a form of strength, not from lacking words, but from knowing they add no value. Speaking often does not mean knowing much, but knowing when to be silent is a sign of depth. Stillness is also where philosophical intuition grows. The ability to see the essence of things without being clouded by emotion or surface appearances. In silence, layers of ego peel away, revealing what truly matters and what is mere illusion. This is not instinctual intuition, but one honed through reflection, observation, and analysis. possible only in an undistracted space. Those who live often in stillness are not easily agitated. They don't rush to react, don't readily believe what shocks, and don't fall prey to collective emotion. Their steadiness isn't inborn, but developed through silent self-observation. They learn to detach from outer chaos, to preserve inner clarity. In the digital age, where every moment is flooded with alerts, news, comments, and images, people lose connection with themselves. Without creating stillness, one is quickly swept away, losing direction and self-awareness. Stillness is no longer optional. It is vital for mental health and inner integrity. In summary, Stoic philosophy sees stillness not as escape, but as training to face life with reason. It is the inner space where we observe ourselves, correct our faults, renew moral commitments, and prepare for intentional action. In stillness, character is sharpened, not with noise, but with quiet strength. And within that watchful silence, a resilient self begins to emerge. 8. Directing thought, mastering the silent war. In every action, emotion, and decision, thought is the beginning. No deed occurs without an idea arising first. Thus, in Stoic philosophy, if one cannot govern their thoughts, they become a victim of the mind, dragged by chaos, negativity, and aimlessness. The inner war, though silent, is the fiercest and most critical. Epictetus said, "One who hasn't learned to master thought is forever its slave." This reflects a central Stoic tenet. While all things external may be taken, the right to rule thought is sacred, and with it, the responsibility. Within each person exists an inner court, where thoughts arise, are shaped, steered, or left unchecked. Whoever masters that realm masters themselves. Yet thought is not always orderly. Most of the time, the mind follows habit, reacting to stimuli, recalling memories, imagining futures, and amplifying fears. Without direction, this stream pulls us into cycles of anxiety, regret, and doubt. Stoics know this, and thus train the mind through reason, reflection, and focused attention. To direct thought is not to deny reality, but to discern what can be controlled and what cannot. A healthy thought begins with the question, what can I do with this? If worry centers on what's beyond our influence, like the weather, others' actions, or chance events, then prolonged thinking only creates needless stress. If the issue lies within our control, then focus belongs on solutions, not rumination. Directing thought also means asking the right questions at the right time. When a negative idea arises, like, "I'm not good enough," or "I will fail," Stoics do not passively accept it. They pause and ask, "Is this true? What evidence contradicts it? Does this help right action or hinder it?" Such inquiry doesn't erase the thought, but weakens its grip by inviting reason into the inner dialogue. A common Stoic practice is reflective journaling. Rather than letting thoughts drift unnoticed, the practitioner writes them down, analyzes them, and names each type. This reveals recurring negative patterns, false beliefs, or exaggerated emotions. Putting thought on paper creates cognitive distance, space where reason can step in, assess, and adjust. This isn't self-soothing, it's cognitive training. Meditation, especially mindfulness, is also a Stoic tool for thought direction. Not to empty the mind, but to observe it without identification. When one watches a thought pass without reacting, they create a mental buffer, a space where will and choice can enter. It is in this buffer that proper action replaces instinct. An untrained mind often dwells in worry about the future and regret over the past. Stoics note that both are symptoms of thoughts that stray from the present. Thus, training the mind to return to the now is essential. They do not reject the past or planning, but they reject being trapped where action is impossible. The present, where agency resides, is the anchor of Stoic awareness. Stoics also know that not all thoughts deserve trust. Thoughts aren't always true. They are often shaped by bias, fleeting emotion, or external influence. Therefore, Stoics apply rational skepticism to their own minds. They test their thoughts as one would test a product before acting or responding. One may live in comfort, yet if the mind is chaotic, they suffer. Another may face hardship, but with a well-directed mind, remain composed and effective. This proves that the quality of life is not dictated by conditions, but by the quality of thought. Mastering thought is not optional. It is the core task of anyone who seeks a meaningful life. In summary, directing thought isn't about suppressing natural mental flow. It's the art of choosing which thoughts to feed and which to release. The victor in the silent war is not the one without negative thoughts, but the one who denies them command. And in every moment we choose our thoughts, we move closer to inner freedom, the firm foundation of a life of virtue. 9. Warrior mindset, living with commitment. In Stoic philosophy, the image of a warrior does not imply violence or physical conflict. It is a symbol of a mindset, steady, rational, disciplined, and unyielding in the face of challenge. The warrior mindset represents a way of living in which one acts by principle, unmoved by fleeting emotion or adverse conditions. It is a life lived in commitment to ideals, to action, and to oneself. The warrior mindset begins with the awareness that life is an unending series of trials. There is no guarantee of ease, no path without obstacles. Yet instead of avoiding or resenting hardship, the warrior accepts it as inevitable and prepares to meet it. They don't ask life to be gentler. They train themselves to be stronger. Their commitment doesn't arise from hope for ease, but from trust in their own capacity to overcome through will. A defining trait of the warrior mindset is the ability to act without dependence on inspiration. While many act only when motivated, the warrior acts from duty and chosen principle. They do not wait to feel like doing something because the commitment has already been made. Steadfast action, even without immediate reward, is a hallmark of the warrior. It reflects a character shaped by reason, no longer swayed by passing moods. The warrior does not wait for perfect conditions to begin. They understand that even the best laid plans will meet resistance. Rather than delay for the right moment, they move with what is available and adapt as needed. Their flexibility is not recklessness, but strength rooted in deep commitment and accountability. They keep advancing, not because they don't fear, but because they have chosen courage as a way of life. In Stoicism, a warrior does not fear failure. They know failure is not an end but part of the training. Each failure teaches something about the self, about weaknesses to mend, and limits to stretch. They don't use failure as an excuse to quit. They turn it into fuel for fortitude. The warrior mindset doesn't deny pain, but refuses to let pain paralyze action. Commitment is the core of the warrior mindset. Without it, Effort collapses at the first sign of hardship. Commitment sustains action on the days when passion fades, and it becomes the reason to press on when all else falls apart. But in Stoic philosophy, commitment isn't a grand vow. It's a quiet promise, repeated daily in the smallest of acts, in living true to principles unseen by others. A warrior is also someone who takes full responsibility for their choices. They don't blame circumstances or offer excuses for stagnation. They understand that maturity means owning the outcome, whether success or failure. This ownership is the source of true freedom, for they are no longer dependent on approval or blame. They live as the captain of their own life, not waiting for direction, nor hoping for rescue. A true warrior doesn't need to be seen as strong. They don't live to impress. They live to fulfill their mission. They may be silent in the crowd, but their actions quietly shift the world. They don't need to declare their goals. Their consistency and discipline speak for them. The warrior-minded person lets action speak louder than words. The warrior mindset also includes continual preparation. The warrior doesn't wait for trials to train. They know readiness must begin beforehand, in times of calm. They train the mind in silence, the body through discipline, and the spirit through daily acts of virtue. When adversity strikes, they are not caught off guard because their posture was already steady. This preparation allows them to face storms with composure. A profound mark of the warrior mindset is submission to reason, not letting emotion govern behavior, nor instinct dictate decisions. The warrior acts because it is right, not because it is easy. They know when to yield, when to wait, but never when to quit. They live with clear direction, not pulled by the chaos of the world, but guided by the compass within. In conclusion, the warrior mindset is not about outer strength, but inner resolve, where one acts consistently by principle, accepts risk, endures hardship, and lives with commitment. It is a form of courage not easily seen, but enduring through time. A true warrior does not need victory to prove their worth. The way they fight is itself a testament to the character they uphold. 10. Your true legacy is the person you leave behind. In a world obsessed with immediate metrics like fame, status, and wealth, the idea of legacy is often reduced to what can be seen, counted, or publicly recognized. Yet in Stoic philosophy, legacy is not what we own or what is praised. It is who we become, how we live, and the invisible influence we leave on the lives of others. From the Stoic view, we are not remembered for what we intended, but for what we quietly carried out, with steadiness, integrity, and honesty. A kind act, a moral decision, or a timely word may ripple farther than we imagine. No stage is needed, no spotlight required. True value etches itself into memory and spirit like an indelible mark. Legacy, in its deepest sense, is the moral identity a person shapes over a lifetime. It is not something spoken, but expressed in consistent action, especially when no one is watching. When someone holds firm in hardship, treats the powerless justly, or chooses right when wrong would go unnoticed, these are the moments that define who they are. And that true self is the most enduring legacy. Stoics like Marcus Aurelius reminded us that what matters is not how long we live, but how we live. Time is just a neutral frame. A brief life lived with reason, duty, and devotion may leave more impact than a long one without substance. Legacy does not require a life of worldly greatness. It calls for a life of conscience. A person may lose titles, assets, or reputation, but if they preserve character, they preserve the core of their legacy. Honesty, calm, compassion, discipline, service. These inner traits cannot be stolen if cultivated from within. And when carried consistently, they quietly inspire those nearby, even after the bearer is gone. In Stoic thought, legacy need not be carved in stone or recorded in books. It may live in the small things: a word of counsel to someone lost, kindness to one who cannot repay, perseverance in a forgotten effort. These acts, repeated by someone principled, become an invisible legacy with lasting reach. Stoicism also rejects the idea that value must be validated by others. One need not be famous or powerful to leave a meaningful impact. In fact, those who live quietly and rightly, without applause, without performance, often leave the deepest marks. Legacy is not a matter of volume, but of virtue's depth. Legacy is shaped not by singular events, but by repeated action. No single deed defines a life, but hundreds, thousands of intentional acts form a moral pattern that can inspire. That pattern, when shared through human contact, lives on beyond the person who formed it. To the Stoic, a life committed to inner growth is not just personal success, it is social duty. Every principled individual helps build a stronger, more humane, and more reliable world. Legacy, therefore, is not a badge of pride. It is a form of service. To live as a model, not to be admired, but to offer others a path forward in their own journey. Those who leave true legacies do not need to proclaim anything. They do not teach philosophy with eloquent words. They simply live rightly. And in the steadiness, truth, and quiet integrity of their life, they teach more than any speech ever could. In the eyes of Stoic thought, this is the highest form of influence, not control, not persuasion, but inspiration through being. In sum, true legacy is not what people say after you're gone. It is what you plant in others while you are here. It is courage in silence, integrity in small choices, and steadiness when all else is uncertain. And when you live like this each day, you need not worry about the legacy you leave, for you yourself become the legacy. Each morning, we face a quiet choice: to live by the instinct to delay, avoid, and seek comfort, or to live as someone responsible to ourselves and to the world. What's striking is that this choice requires no declaration nor perfect conditions. It simply begins with getting out of bed on time, with keeping promises, with staying silent when provoked, and with choosing action over blame. These seemingly small acts are where strength of character is forged. In daily life, countless moments that seem ordinary are actually tests of self-mastery. When we want to quit halfway, that's a call to practice discipline. When adversity strikes, instead of complaining, ask, "What can I learn from this?" When a negative thought arises, pause and examine it, instead of passively accepting it. Each of these acts carries the essence of Stoicism, even if no one sees or applauds them. I've come to realize that living stoically doesn't require grand change at the outset. It begins by repeating a few right actions each day and being honest with ourselves in the smallest details. Not to be perfect, but to be steady in a world that never stops shifting. And that is the path to true freedom. If this content brought you value, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next video. That's how you walk this path with us, quietly but meaningfully. And always remember, you don't need to be extraordinary to begin. You just need to begin and stay the course. See you in the next video.